There is a quiet moment that happens once a year, between the last breath of December and the first light of January. Nothing in the world has changed, yet something inside feels different. People who trust the new year are not naive. They are listening to a deeper rhythm, a psychological pause, a symbolic clean page. They understand that time itself does not heal but meaning does. And the new year, for them, is not a promise of perfection. It is permission to imagine again, to hope without proof, to believe that becoming is still possible, even after disappointment. There is a particular kind of hope that arrives without noise. It does not announce itself. It does not demand belief. It simply settles in, like a slow breath after a long year. People who trust the new year often feel this hope before they can name it. It appears in small moments, in the way the air feels lighter on the first morning of January, in the instinct to pause, even briefly, before returning to life as it was. This trust is rarely dramatic. It is not the kind that fills vision boards or bold declarations. It is quieter, more private, almost tender. Psychologically, this moment is not about change yet. It is about recognition. A subtle emotional acknowledgement that something has ended. Because something has ended, something else is now possible. Even if nothing tangible looks different, the mind registers a boundary, a line drawn not in reality, but in meaning. For many, this recognition feels calming rather than energizing. There is relief in knowing that the story has turned a page, even if the next chapter is still unwritten. Trusting the new year does not mean believing everything will improve. It means allowing the nervous system to soften for a moment, to release the weight of carrying an entire year inside the body. This is why the hope feels gentle. It is not built on expectations. It is built on permission. Permission to imagine without committing. Permission to feel less defined by what came before. The new year becomes a psychological pause, socially accepted moment where reflection feels safe, even encouraged. People who trust this moment are often deeply aware of their own emotional history. They remember the promises that did not come true, the resolutions that faded. And yet, they still allow a small space for possibility. Not because they are unaware of disappointment, but because they have learned that without moments of symbolic renewal, the psyche grows tired. Hope, in this form, is not optimism. It is endurance. It is the mind saying, quietly, that it is still willing to try believing in time. That it has not completely closed itself off to future versions of the self. This quiet hope does not rush. It does not insist on outcomes. It simply holds the door open just enough for something new to enter. And for many, that is more than enough to begin again. Long before the new year becomes a date on a calendar, it exists as an idea, an emotional imprint. A learned association between time and renewal. People who trust the new year rarely develop this trust by accident. It forms early, often in subtle ways. In childhood, time is marked by rituals, birthdays, school years ending, holidays that promise something different from ordinary days. These moments teach the mind that change can arrive not only through effort, but through passage. Sometimes, simply moving forward in time creates space for something new. Psychologically, this is where belief begins. The human brain is meaning-making by nature. It looks for patterns, symbols, and transitions to organize emotional experience. The new year becomes one of the most powerful symbols because it is shared. Entire societies pause together. Schedules reset. Language changes. Phrases like this year and last year quietly reshaped memory, placing emotional distance between who someone was and who they might become. For those who trust this moment, The belief is rarely literal. They do not believe time itself will fix what is broken. Instead, they associate new beginnings with safety, a sense that it is acceptable to loosen the grip on the past, even temporarily. This association often comes from moments when a fresh start once brought relief, leaving a difficult environment, surviving a hard season, or simply noticing that pain did not last forever. Attachment psychology plays a quiet role here. People who experienced some form of emotional repair in their past wear endings led to gentler beginnings tend to internalize the idea that transitions can be held, not feared. Even those who faced instability may cling to symbolic resets as a way to create internal order where external order was missing. Trusting the new year then becomes a psychological adaptation, a way of when the mind feels overwhelmed by continuity, by the sense that everything blends together. The concept of a new year offers separation. Before, after, then, now. This belief is not about denial of reality, it is about containment. The psyche needs places to set things down, emotional containers where grief, regret, and exhaustion can be placed without being carried indefinitely. The new year becomes one such container. And so, belief begins, not in hope alone, but in memory. In the quiet evidence that the self has survived time before. That endings, while painful, have also made room. Trusting the new year is less about expecting miracles and more about remembering that change, in some form, has always been possible. The human mind does not experience time as a straight line. It experiences it in landmarks. Psychology calls these moments temporal markers, points in time that help the brain organize memory, identity, and expectation. Birthdays, anniversaries, first days, last days, and among them, the new year stands apart. Not because it is inherently powerful, but because it is collectively recognized. When everyone pauses at once, the brain pays attention. People who trust the new year are often responding to this cognitive shift. Research in behavioral psychology shows that temporal landmarks create what is known as a fresh start effect. The mind becomes more open to reframing identity, not because circumstances have changed, but because context. The phrase "this year" subtly distances the self from last year, allowing reflection without full emotional immersion. Neurologically, this matters. Memory and emotion are closely tied. When experiences are grouped under a closed chapter last year, the brain reduces their immediacy. Regret feels less sharp. Fatigue feels more containable. The nervous system, even briefly, steps out of survival mode. This does not mean people who trust the new year are driven by illusion. On the contrary, they often understand that change is slow. What they are responding to is psychological permission, a sanctioned moment to reinterpret the self, to hold the past at arm's length without denying it. Cognitive reframing plays a key role here. The new year offers a neutral narrative. Reset. The story is not arrested. Events that once felt defining become chapters instead of conclusions. This shift reduces cognitive load. The mind no longer has to carry everything as unfinished. Time perception also influences emotional regulation. Studies show that when people feel trapped in a continuous present, stress intensifies. Temporal segmentation, breaking life into chapters, helps restore a sense of agency. The new year becomes a shared segmentation point, giving the psyche structure. Trusting this moment, then, is not magical thinking. It is alignment with how the brain naturally organizes experience. A recognition that meaning, not time itself, determines emotional movement. Those who trust the new year are often intuitively using psychology to survive. They are allowing the mind to rest in the idea that identity is not fixed, and that the future, while uncertain, is not entirely closed. In this way, the new year becomes less about resolution and more about regulation, a mental boundary that makes breathing easier. A reminder that time can be shaped by perception and that sometimes that is enough to begin again. Even the quietest hope carries its shadow. Trust in the new year is rarely absolute. Beneath the gentle optimism lies a tension skepticism, fear, a whisper of past disappointment. People who look forward to new beginnings often do so with cautious hearts. They have lived through years that promised transformation but delivered repetition. They have crafted resolutions, nurtured intentions, only to watch them dissolve. And yet, they still participate in the symbolic renewal. This is the paradox: hope and doubt, side by side. Psychologically, this duality is natural. Cognitive dissonance occurs when desires collide with memories of failure. The mind struggles to reconcile the yearning for change with evidence of its own inertia. For many, the new year becomes a stage where this internal dialogue plays out a quiet theater of expectation and resistance. Emotional resistance also has protective roots. Past disappointment teaches survival. To trust blindly is to risk vulnerability. Doubt, in this sense, is not weakness, it is the mind's careful measure, the nervous system's gentle caution. It reminds the individual that while the calendar may have turned, the self remains the same. And the self is wary. Yet paradoxically, it is this very caution that gives hope its texture. Trust is not naive, it is deliberate. Choosing to believe, even partially, requires courage. It is an active act of engagement with the passage of time. People who trust the new year are aware of uncertainty, but they allow themselves to participate anyway. This inner conflict often emerges as a quiet tension in thought. Will this year be different? The mind asks, while another part whispers, perhaps it doesn't matter if it is. Both questions coexist. Both are valid. The tension itself can be a source of introspection, offering insight into values, fears, and patterns that have shaped the self. Doubt also teaches humility. It reminds the individual that the new year is not a magical reset button. Transformation is not guaranteed. Instead, it is symbolic, an invitation to reflect, not a promise to perform. And in understanding this, the mind finds balance. The heart can hope without inflating expectation. The self can dream without overcommitting to outcome. In this interplay between hope and doubt, trust becomes nuanced. It is no longer blind optimism, but a gentle willingness to step forward, one reflective breath at a time. Here, hope is enriched by realism. It is the kind of hope that endures quietly beneath the surface of life's unpredictability. There comes a moment when the weight of expectation begins to loosen. People who trust the new year often arrive here quietly, without fanfare. It is not a sudden epiphany, but a subtle internal shift, a reorientation of perspective rather than circumstance. The turning point is rarely about accomplishing resolutions or changing circumstances. It is about noticing the mind's own patterns, observing the cyclical pull of hope and doubt, recognizing that the new year does not inherently alter reality, but it can alter perception. In this subtle awareness, trust evolves from reliance on outcomes to acceptance of potential. Psychologically, this shift aligns with the concept of metacognition, thinking about one's thinking. The mind steps outside its habitual scripts and observes the inner narrative. What was once a story of pressure I must transform becomes a story of gentle permission. I may become, in time, what I imagine. This reframing reduces the urgency that often accompanies symbolic dates and creates a quiet space for introspection. Emotionally, the internal shift is liberating. It allows hope to exist without expectation. It transforms the new year from a checklist to a companion, external marker that reminds the self it is capable of continuity, reflection, and gentle renewal. The nervous system can finally breathe. Tension held in anticipation of failure begins to dissipate. For many, this shift is reinforced by reflection on past experiences. They remember that some changes unfolded slowly, outside of their control, yet still arrived. They understand that meaning, not acceleration, guides emotional growth. This realization softens the rigid structures of planning and introduces flexibility into how they relate to time. At this stage, trust in the new year is no longer conditional. It is not contingent on achieving goals or avoiding failure. Instead, it becomes a psychological stance, a willingness to hold the self tenderly across time, acknowledging both limitations and possibilities. The calendar is no longer a judge, but a mirror reflecting resilience. In practice, this internal shift manifests as quiet attention, gentle awareness, and reduced inner pressure. It is a subtle form of self-compassion. People notice the moments that are already unfolding rather than those that have yet to come. They engage with the new year as a symbolic ally rather than a demanding taskmaster. Here, the seed of enduring trust is planted. The self recognizes that transformation is not a deadline, but a journey. That hope is not fragile when untethered from immediate outcome, and that the new year, in its simplest form, offers a rhythm: pause, reflect, and gently continue. Trusting the new year fully emerges as a form of gentle faith. Not a faith tied to miracles or guarantees, but a quiet, patient alignment with the flow of time. People who embody this understanding have moved beyond rigid resolutions. They have embraced the notion that life unfolds in increments, often invisible until reflected upon later. Psychologically, this stage represents integration. The mind and heart no longer experience temporal landmarks as pressures, but as opportunities to recalibrate. The new year becomes a mirror, not a measurement. Instead of asking, "What must I fix?" the inner voice now softly wonders, "What can I notice?" This subtle shift reframes the calendar from a deadline into a companionable rhythm. Emotionally, living with gentle faith allows for continuity across uncertainty. Disappointment from the past no longer defines the horizon. The nervous system rests in a space where change is possible but not demanded. The self becomes attuned to small movements, a lingering smile, a moment of curiosity, a deep breath that carries relief. These micro-experiences become markers of renewal, more profound than any external achievement. From a behavioral perspective, this faith encourages self-compassion. People grant themselves permission to move at their own pace. They no longer rely on symbolic dates to justify introspection, they practice it throughout life. But the new year serves as a reminder, a socially sanctioned pause that validates reflection. In this way, trust is sustained without pressure or urgency. There is also a relational dimension. Observing the new year as a symbolic rhythm fosters empathy for others who struggle. People recognize that everyone carries histories, regrets, and unfulfilled intentions. Gentle faith extends to human connection, acknowledging that others, too, may be navigating cycles of hope and doubt. The new year becomes a shared, yet deeply personal, emotional landscape. Spiritually, even without invoking religion, this stage feels sacred. Time itself is treated with reverence. Each passing year is neither enemy nor savior, but a guide. Those who trust the new year understand that growth is incremental, and that continuity in presence, witnessing oneself with compassion, is the quiet miracle of living. Ultimately, living with gentle faith reframes expectation. The new year ceases to be a marker of urgency or anxiety. Instead, it is a soft invitation to observe, to feel, to pause, and to continue. Trust has matured from a fragile hope into a sustained rhythm, carried not on the back of outcomes, but on the gentle understanding that life moves patiently through cycles of becoming. Time, in the end, is less a measure and more a companion. For those who trust the new year, each turning of the calendar is not a demand, but a gentle invitation. It whispers softly, "You are still here, still moving, still capable of witnessing yourself." This companionable view of time reframes the human experience. Moments of hope, doubt, growth, and rest are no longer isolated or urgent. They are threads woven into a larger tapestry, each year a subtle layer added to the fabric of life. People who trust the new year sense this rhythm intuitively. Understand that endings are not erasures, but preludes. That beginnings are not guarantees, but opportunities to align with what already exists inside. Psychologically, this is profound. The mind no longer battles the unchangeable past or frets over the uncertain future. It rests in awareness. It notices small shifts, fleeting joys, subtle lessons. Each year becomes a mirror reflecting endurance, resilience, and the continuity of self. This perspective softens the hard edges of disappointment and tempers the rush of expectation. Emotionally, it is an embrace of the new year is no longer a boundary that separates before and after in judgment, but a rhythm that accompanies presence. People find solace, not in instant transformation, but in noticing that growth, however slow, is happening. The nervous system recognizes safety in continuity, the heartbeat of life flowing steadily, patiently, across years. In this space, symbolic renewal deepens. Trust in the new year becomes trust in the self, trust in the flow, trust in life's quiet pulse. Every tick of the clock, every page turned in the calendar, is a reminder that the human journey is ongoing, and that becoming is less about deadlines and more about presence. Poetically, the new year is a companion walking alongside the self. Year after year, it does not push or prod. It simply observes. It mirrors the enduring hope that life, even with its disappointments and uncertainties, can be lived with attentiveness, compassion, and quiet wonder. And in the gentle companionship of time, people learn that trust is not an event, it is a rhythm, one that invites them, softly, to pause, to breathe, to continue, always tenderly continuing.